Hey, what is going on guys? My name is Madison Charlton from MLC Tech, and today we're going to be talking about the main issue I have with the new and latest generation of computer motherboards. And that is to do with troubleshooting and diagnosing errors with motherboards, and how motherboard manufacturers have removed certain features on mainstream motherboards to make them more difficult to use and diagnose, and to then take these removed features and to market them as premium enthusiast features. So sit back and relax as we dive into the main issue that I have with modern motherboards. Now, motherboards are actually pretty good at identifying issues. The easiest way to diagnose and identify these errors is through a BIOS postcode, which just stands for Power On Self-Test. In the earlier days of PCs, we were able to read these codes through buzzers on the motherboard, and that produced an error code through various different amounts of beeps. Think of it being a little similar to how Morse code works. But then in later years, motherboards moved to a more useful way of displaying these error codes, and that was having a little error code readout display built onto the motherboards themselves. And this made identifying errors so much more easier, and also a lot more precise, due to being able to display and identify a much wider variation of error codes, which could help us identify the exact error that we're facing with our system. And all you had to do to find the details of this error code was simply make a note of it and look it up. It was so easy to do. And this was so useful for all types of PC users, from the more novice PC builders all the way up to the more hardened and experienced veterans in the industry. The main reason why this was great for novice users, as a lot of times the errors that people faced with PC building were such simple and easy to correct faults. And a novice PC user could easily be told what the issue is and be able to identify and potentially fix it themselves. For example, it could be as simple as a RAM stick not being seated correctly, being able to read an error code that tells you that this is the exact issue, and having an exact error code to identify an issue with the RAM makes it easy to fix the issue without going in blind oblivious to the issue at hand. It means the user can quickly identify the issue for themselves and get their PC back up and running in no time, with no need for extensive troubleshooting, or in some cases have to seek out additional friend from a tech-savvy friend, or even a technician in more extreme circumstances. For about the last 15 years, this has been a common feature on the mainstream motherboard market. This was absent on more budget-oriented motherboards, though this was back in the day where budget actually meant spending £40 on a board, opposed to today where an entry-level board costs around 3 to 4 times as much as this. Throughout my time building PCs over the course of more than a decade, every motherboard that I owned had a postcode error display, until it came to upgrading my CPU last year, where I had upgraded to an AMD 7950 X3D and an ASUS X670E-A motherboard. And this is probably the most I've ever spent on a motherboard. So I was absolutely shocked when my new motherboard did not have this error code display. And this was such a simple yet ever so helpful feature. And this issue was not just limited to my ASUS board. This has become a widespread issue across the entire motherboard market. Instead, all I was left with in terms of the ability to troubleshoot was a simple LED indicator, which was of absolutely no help at all, as the only things these LED indicators actually tell you if motherboard bad, motherboard good, CPU bad, which in actual real use, just saying good or bad tells you absolutely nothing. And it's like, yes, I already know something's wrong with my computer for the fact it won't post at all, so I don't need an indicator to tell me something's gone wrong. I want to know exactly what the issue is so I can easily fix and rectify whatever is causing my issues. What really stuck the boot in with the removal of the error code readout display was the reasons behind it, and how motherboard manufacturers are really trying to take us for fools and try and gouge even more money out of us. It's no secret that motherboard prices have been rising over the course of the most recent years, but for what seems like no real additional features or advancements in what we're getting on these boards. Back when I built a PC in 2013, I paid £140 for what was a mainstream C87 board, but this board was slightly on the premium side of the market, and that being an X87 MSI Empower motherboard. Whereas nowadays you're looking to spend upwards of £300 for a standard mainstream C790 or X670 board without any premium features. The main issue when it comes to the removal of this error code for mainstream boards is that they have decided to make this an exclusive feature for super high-end motherboards. And yes, I'm especially looking at you, ASUS, where you have to spend at least £600 on a motherboard just to get a simple error code display. And the worst part about this is that they're trying to use this as a marketing feature to make their expensive Enthusiast level boards to seem even better and to justify the amount they charged for them. Now, I'm all for there being a super high-end Enthusiast level motherboard market if they're actually bringing new features and innovations to them, but to simply just take away a feature from a mainstream motherboard and then bring it back as some premium feature on a motherboard is outright ridiculous and very disingenuous of motherboard manufacturers. Which just goes to show that motherboard manufacturers are still trying to take us for fools. I mean, just look at how ASUS handled their controversy last year, where they were pumping too much voltage into AMD's X3D CPUs, and it was only after so much public backlash where they were able to fix the issues and also rectify the issues with their customers and make it right for the consumer. So it just goes to show that motherboard manufacturers only really care about one thing, and that is getting your hard-earned money, and if they can, they're quite happy to throw the consumer under the bus unless there is so much public backlash where they're forced to retract and think, hang on a minute. Now, I really wish for the future generations of PC components and motherboards that we return to a more consumer-friendly approach and make a course correction on the removal for such simple and easy to install features on mainstream motherboards, and there is very little cost on implementing such a simple feature, so there is absolutely no excuse for this. But hey, I guess you're spending all that extra money on extra RGB for your motherboards, so I guess at the end of the day, it's worth being price gouged for your motherboard because of how fancy it looks in the dark, right? Right? Anyway, that has been my little rant and discussion on the main issues that I'm currently facing when it comes to buying modern motherboards, and how has the removal of such a simple error code reader affected your ability to diagnose and troubleshoot errors when it comes to your PC. Also, let me know what features you would love to see on motherboards in the coming generations to come. Anyway, I have been Madison Charlton from MLC Tech. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you liked it in any way, shape or form, make sure to give this video a like and maybe subscribe for more content like this in the future. Thank you once again for watching, and I hope to see you in another video soon. Goodbye for now.